Welcome to the Art of ADHD, a podcast where we explore the tools and strategies to help people thrive with ADHD. I'm your host, Liam Park. In today's episode, we meet with Jesse Dealdale, an entrepreneur who builds websites for therapists. Jesse is passionate about physical, mental, and spiritual health. Recently, he went through a challenge called the 75 Hard, during which, among other great achievements, he lost about 30 pounds. In today's conversation, we discuss how our mindset and the stories we sell ourselves on affect our ability to cope with ADHD. Enjoy the show.
Thanks for joining me today, Jesse. I'm excited to talk.
Yeah, me too, man. Thanks for having me.
So I've been really inspired by your journey over the last couple of months. You've just done the 75 Hard. And that's especially hard for someone who may have ADHD. Like, a lot of people with ADHD seem to think they don't have habits, can't build habits. Take me back before the 75 Hard. Where did this come from? What were the challenges of ADHD growing up for you?
So before 75 Hard was very much exactly like you're talking about. I didn't have good habits. And I think what inspired me to do 75 Hard was because I was very aware of that. And I knew that if I were to do it, then I could kind of build these habits or at least good habits into my life. And one of the biggest things I think for me was that I didn't have a good follow through, which I think is very typical of ADHD, you know? And so I would want to do something, but I would never follow through with things. And so I was lucky enough to be invited on a hike. And I found a group of people who went every Tuesday, and I thought to myself, that is a great opportunity for me to maybe not have to do things on my own, but I can kind of just join the group. Yeah. And if I were to do it once a week, that's not such a huge leap. Yeah. It was just, am I committed to getting healthier? Yeah. Yes or no. If it was yes, then I could probably do it every single Tuesday. So I did it every single Tuesday, and then that kind of sparked me wanting to just be better, and so I started doing every Friday. But
take me back, like, before this, like what got you excited for the Tuesday hikes? Like, how did you, what was your life like when ADHD was maybe more of a problem for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, to take you back, I didn't really know I had ADHD until my wife and I got together and we were dating, and she was diagnosed with ADHD when she was 11. And there was a YouTube video I saw from How to ADHD. It's a great channel. And she had mentioned, or one of the videos she had was kind of like, if you have ADHD, most likely, not everybody is like this, but she just had a list of things. If you're this, or if you're this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this. And it was like everything she said was like check marking my entire life. Yeah. And so in high school, I just couldn't, I could be in the class, but I couldn't really focus on what I was doing. And I didn't really want to do anything that didn't really engage me, so I just didn't. Yeah. And so I developed really great habits of cheating on book reports and cheating on tests and kind of workarounds for a lot of things. And so a lot of my early years was very much me feeling like I was dumb, and it was like a constant battle of, well, I'm not dumb because I've done this and this and this, but I am dumb because I can't seem to engage or focus or something. So it was a big battle for a lot of my life, and really kind of resulted in more anxiety, depression, stuff like that. And so it was hard for me to really even understand like what was happening. Yeah. And so it just resulted in kind of like, I was very athletic most of my life. And when football was my main sport, so when that ended, I kind of didn't really have a lot that I was really striving for. So it resulted in me just kind of sitting on the couch and not doing much, and that those feelings that kind of came with me, and that kind of stage of my life very much just kind of put me out.
Yeah.
Almost.
With football, I feel there's a motivation every season, right? You got some sort of tournament, some sort of playoff you're aiming for, something you are striving to. So it's a natural source of motivation. And without motivation, I've found with the ADHD brain, things are a lot harder. Mm-hmm. There's not an easy way to cope with life without motivation. Yeah. So what shifted in the last year or so that got you motivated? How did you change?
Yeah, so I have 2 girls, and they are 5. Well, this summer they'll be 5 and 3. And I've just been really realizing that they are watching me. And everything that I do, they are going to kind of become, because they only know what they know. And so when I got invited on this hike, it was kind of like this almost awakening, like this is your moment to make a change, even if it was a small change. And I just took it. And from there, I just kept going every Tuesday. And I had such an amazing conversation with one of the guys on the hike. And he was talking about how successful people are successful because they have non-negotiable habits. And he said to me, if you aren't where you want to be, most likely it's because you are negotiable in your habits. And I was like, you're right. I just am. When the hard things come up, I tend to just not be committed to what I'm striving to do, and I could blame it on the fact that my back hurts. I could blame it on the fact that, what I do for work, I sit in a office in a chair all day. I could blame it on the fact that my kids, sometimes wake up at night, and my wife and I are both up. There's so many things that I could blame it on, but the real fact is that I'm negotiable in what I'm striving for. And ever since that conversation, I just made this commitment to be non-negotiable. So it just became more of a commitment to, I'm going to be here every Tuesday, no matter what. If my kids are up, if whatever's going on, I'm just going to be there in the morning. Yep. And so that created this weekly commitment. And because I was very overweight for my size. And so going up the mountain was very hard. Yeah. I joke a lot about how I was just seeing double all the way up. And so I wanted to be better. So I tried to figure out, well, what more can I do? And that's when I said, well, then I'm going to go every Friday so I could be better on Tuesdays. So I was going Tuesdays and Fridays. And then that same guy on the hike said, I remember another conversation where I was telling him I used to be athletic, and I used to have this motivated mentality. I used to. And I remember him saying, you've done such a good job selling yourself on why you can't win. I'm just not buying it. Yeah. And I was like, oh. And so he said, you are either going to change or you're not. That's your choice. Yeah. And then that's when he said, if you're serious about changing, then you have to do 75 hard. And I don't know if anybody watching knows what that is, but it's like a mental fitness workout program that you do 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes each. One of them is outside. You drink a gallon of water, 4 liters of water. You read 10 pages, no alcohol. You stick to a diet, and you take a progress photo every day. And he said, if you do that, then you're going to come out of that way more mentally stronger than you are now. So if you're basically, if you're serious, then do it.
Yeah.
And I thought he was insane. Like, who in their right mind would do that for 75 days straight? And especially with kids. So again, it's all the excuses and all the, you know, all the reasons why I can't do something. But he was totally right when he said, you've sold yourself on why you can't do something.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, and it was the reality is, like, anybody can do anything.
Yeah.
It's really, and it's just a matter of, you know, are you negotiable or non-negotiable in your habits?
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it's hard, but you just do it hard. You know, you do it even though it is hard. And I feel like that's such a separator for a lot of people. And so in terms of my ADHD and the habits that I was creating, I did things that just allowed me not to think about it so much. So because I was hiking every Tuesday and Friday, I thought to myself, well, I could do this every day. Really, it's just a matter of waking up the same way I wake up on Tuesdays and Fridays anyways. So I just made a commitment that every single day I'm going to wake up at 5:30. I'm going to leave my house at 6, and then I'm going to go hiking at 6:30, and that's just going to be my day. And if I'm tired, then I'm tired. If I'm tired, then I need to go to bed earlier the next day. Or if I'm tired, then maybe I need to fit in a 20, 30, 40-minute nap or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I created these habits that allowed me to make it easier. You know, and then I bought a big bottle of water, or a 4-liter bottle of water that had times on it, so I can see where I was at in terms of my water and where I should be.
Yeah.
And then I also have a MetaQuest, and so I used that. There's a workout program on there called Supernatural.
Yeah.
And it was easy enough for when my kids went to bed, I could go downstairs, I could put on my headset, and I could do a workout, which blew my mind how actually engaging the workout was. I was sweating like crazy. So I could create these more like fluid habits where it wasn't like I was constantly having to think of what workout I was going to do in the evening or something like that. I just had something prepared and ready to go. And then for reading, I just I either read after my workout or sometime during the day. I just made sure I got it done. And so I created habits that fit well with my routine and with what I knew I could do, which just made it a lot easier.
So I want to come back to a piece of that is, I think, really what I've observed is a tragedy of ADHD. Like, I feel like most of the most incredible and spirited people that I know meet diagnostic criteria. Diagnosed or not, they're not like other people. They fit the ADHD label. And especially in communities where people do have a diagnosis and are labeled, it does create a lot of like excuses where people say like, I can't do this because of that. I can't do this because of that. And you know, there's part of you that wants to believe it's true because obviously this different brain chemistry affects a lot about our motivation, our ability to engage our mind. But I think a lot of it is a limiting belief. It is stuff that it's a pattern of thought that we start to think is true that limits our ability to experience the world and bring our best to it. And you had that pattern like shaken by Dan on the hike. But like, how do people get through that? Like, how do you recognize what is a real limitation or what's just a crappy little excuse? And how do you navigate those waters?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's going to be way different for so many people. And I don't know if there's like one answer to that, but I think that my belief is that you can do anything you want to. You know, if you have a goal, you legit could just break it down into 10 different, you know, you could whatever your goal is, you could divide it by 10, you know, and if you could do that first 10th of whatever goal it is, then the rest of it's just asking yourself, am I committed? You know, because I think people want things now. you know? And so if a goal is unattainable, or maybe if it's unattainable in like the first day or the first 30 days, then is it really achievable?
Yeah.
And I think it is. If you're committed to understanding that it just takes time and effort, really. Anything you do is just time and effort. So if whatever you're wanting to achieve, really it's just a matter, are you committed to the time and effort to do it? And then are you negotiable or not in the habits it takes to get there? So, I mean, I'd hate to quote David Goggins, but like it's an excuse, you know, and when it really boils down to it. And I know that for a lot of people that might be kind of like infuriating, but it's like, well, if you were to break it apart, you know, if you were true to actually yourself, if you were true to yourself, you would know if it's an excuse or not.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of times, like, I mean, during 75 Hard, there was one day where I was sick. Like I was like really sick. And I just woke up and said to myself, well, I mean, I've been up for hours at that time. So, and I was just in the bathroom, just letting it go. And I woke up in the morning and I said, I think I could do the hike today. I'm not sure if I had a weight vest at the time, but I just said, if I could just put my head down, take one step in front of the other, I could do the hike in the morning. So I went and I did it. And I came home and I was like, oh, I'm still sick. So I went to bed and I thought to myself, well, I need to drink water anyways. So I was just drinking water and I was trying to get through, you know, as much water as I can. And I was laying in bed going, well, I could read if I wanted to. And again, I was like, it's an excuse for me now if I don't read, because I can. Yeah. I'm laying here in bed. I could do this. I turned the light on and I read my 10 pages. You know, so that day I had gotten my workout. I got my 10 pages. I've already started on my water. And then near the end of the night, you know, my wife asked me, she said, are you going to quit 75 Hard today? And I'm like, no, no, I don't want to. I want to have done this, you know? So my wife and I, we just did this like 45-minute yoga, and I just did it with a bowl right beside me. But I checked it off the list that day and I was like, I did this, you know, I did hard things today. Yeah. And I feel like, you know, if you're wanting to create this betterness of you, then it is through hard things that you'll do it. Yeah. And I think a lot of people look at ADHD as like, well, I can't do this because I am ADHD. Yeah. And I just don't believe that. I believe that there are things that we struggle with. You know, there's a lot. Like, you know, I filled up a water bottle today, and I was going to bring it. I filled it. I had ice. I had this water bottle ready to go, and I just left it on the table. You know, as soon as I put it down, I put my shoes on, and it was like gone out of my mind. And I walked right out the door into the car and here, and it just, I mean, it doesn't mean that I'm going to fail the day today. You know, it's just there are some things that I feel like people with ADHD struggle with, but then also there are things that people with ADHD excel at, you know? So it's like, it doesn't mean somebody is disabled. Yeah. It's just, there are ways around things that we might just need to explore more.
Yeah. I think one of the big issues I see that's like related to this excuse mindset that you're sort of highlighting is our cultural aversion to pain and discomfort, right? We want our food delivered hot to our door, all our favorite flavors right now. We want the entertainment that is our favorite kind. Turn on the screen, let it rip. Comfort and convenience have become totally ubiquitous in the modern world. Even people who are living on the edge of poverty, like not total poverty, like obviously total poverty is deep discomfort, but people who are living poorly in America and North America still have refrigerators, still have hot running water a lot of the time,
A paved driveway.
paved driveway. Things come with struggle. Like many of our ancestors came here on rickety boats, arriving with thin clothes and leather shoes to the Great White North in the middle of winter with like -40 weather, and they lived.
Yeah.
And they made it work. And some of them, if you're impulsive enough to leave Europe on a rickety boat, you might have had some problems too. You might have been a little bit ADHD yourself.
Yeah.
And here you are making it work.
Yeah.
Like how do you learn to love the suck? Like how do you face discomfort?
Yeah, I think that's a decision. I think that's like, cause I know we had started going cold plunging, and that was for me, my personal journey doing that was I need to seek discomfort more. And I remember one time we were talking about it, and I'm like, I'll do it. I'll cold plunge. And you called me on a Sunday, or was it? I think it was a Sunday. Anyways, you called me one night saying, I'm going tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
You didn't even ask me to come. It was just assumed because we'd been talking about it and because I said I wanted to do it, that I would come. And I was like faced with this moment of, you said you wanted this, and I remember waking up, it was December or January, December or something like that. And I was driving to the beach thinking, this is the dumbest thing I'm going to do all day today. What am I doing? I could go home right now, but then I would have to text you and say, hey, I'm not coming. And I'm like, I can't do that. And I remember going there and it was freezing cold. I don't know. I can't remember if there's snow on the ground or
it was, the waves were huge.
It was super. It was
pretty
very
icy.
cold. And I remember just walking out in the water, thinking to myself, I need this right now. I need to feel discomfort, because you're right. There's so many people who have gone before us who've had way worse and have not only survived, but they've thrived. And I think, it's human nature to avoid pain, to seek comfort, to seek warmth. And you are a separator if you are somebody who's seeking discomfort, because anything you do, anything that you're striving for is uncomfortable. And so it is the act of seeking discomfort that just allows you to accomplish the things that you actually want to accomplish. Like having kids is not easy to do, and it's like if you are seeking discomfort prior to that, then you're just way more well equipped to be able to handle sleepless nights, to be able to handle when things don't go right, or when things get broken, or or things like that. And so it's like, I feel like somebody who kind of has this ADHD brain, who's, I think is just positioned to be better at, seeking discomfort. I think those who have ADHD and are still kind of comfortable, I feel like it's like this, I feel like that person's probably trapped, and that person, like, just it has that explorer brain, has that like trying new things brain, and is not doing those things. I think that's what really causes a lot of anxiety and a lot of maybe depression, and that's where I was, when I really didn't know why I felt this way, and but I was seeking comfort a lot. I was seeking alcohol. I was seeking things that were just kind of numbing the pain, rather than, exploring where that was coming from, or exploring how to maybe get out of that. And it's been ever since going cold dip with you, or, you and I would get up in the morning and go flip kettlebells. And it was this mindset of, I need discomfort. I need to do this. And it's more so because I have two girls now who I know are going to look up to me, and they're going to follow in my footsteps in whatever I do. And more than anything, I want to give them a life that is abundant, or a life that is, joyful. And the only way I can do that is to allow them to know that hard things are good, and to going through hard things with the mentality of it's okay to fail, and if I keep practicing, I'll get good at the things I want to be good at. That's where they're going to succeed. Yeah. And I needed to do that first. So in my overweightness, even a year ago, where I was a year ago is just not where I am today. Yeah. And not even physically, but mentally as well, I had to overcome it.
So let's shine a light on that too, because where you were a year ago. Let's talk about where you were 80 days ago.
Yeah.
And now, how have the last 80 days changed for you?
Yeah. So 80 days ago, I was thinking that, so Dan, you're insane. Who would do that? Yeah. And then thinking to myself, no, I have to do that.
And what were you weighing then? What did you look like then?
So when I started on hikes a year ago, so last August, I was 200 pounds. Yeah. And then I was going every Tuesday, every Friday. So I think I lost maybe 5 or 10 pounds. And I weighed in 169 just yesterday. And so in that year, I've lost like 30 pounds. Since I've been doing 75 hard, I've got a tracker, and it just shows, like, when I started on May 1st, it just shows my weight just on a steep decline. Yeah. Which is great. And I look at it now as like, that was a correction. I needed to make a correction. Yeah. And not only for my physical health, but for my mental health as well. Now today, I'm in this mode of like, I don't feel like I have excuses anymore. If there is something that I want to do, I just feel so much more empowered to do it.
And so what's that looking like in your business? Because like a lot of ADHD brains, we do well in entrepreneurship. And you're in the field of, you make websites for therapists. And that's really cool because it's this beautiful synergy of self-employment. A lot of therapists are self-employed too. Mm-hmm. And mental health, mental wellness. And sometimes, people who work in a certain field, it's because they need that service the most too. Like we can look at that. But what is, if you can do anything now, if your mindset's shifted like this, what's on the horizon for you in your business, or what is expanding in terms of helping therapists with their business?
Yeah. So I started my company building websites for therapists and counselors about just over a year and a half ago. And I've gone through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. I have really, I've really felt the roller coaster for sure. But in the last, I would say, month, it's just everything's been up and up and up and up. I've been on a couple YouTube podcasts now with some more prominent therapist business coaches, and just talking about SEO. I've been doing a lot more content in teaching therapists about their website design, the SEO on their website in order to drive traffic to their website so that they can scale their businesses and reach more clients. Mental health is such a passion of mine, and it's because I've lived so many years just feeling like I was just dumb, like my brain, like I couldn't do anything because I had a brain that was stopping me. And the realization that that's not the case, actually my brain just works a little bit differently, has been like the greatest eye-opening feeling, because that means that there's nothing I can't do. then. I just need to maybe do some things differently. Or maybe I'm just not skilled in some areas and I just need help in some others, which my wife is incredible at she's incredible at supporting like where I'm at, but not only that, she's incredible about figuring out where I'm lacking, and she just kind of fills the gap, which is, I'm incredibly grateful to have the partner I have today. But even friends, I've created, you yourself, I feel like I've created such a great group of friends who just understand, and are more willing to just kind of be there for wherever I'm lacking, which is awesome. But yeah.
There's in my working with people with ADHD, I've sort of identified a few pillars. That's what I like, the pillars of ADHD management. Their perspective. You got to start with that because you want to get your sight right. Like we were saying, the attitude, the perspective. If you think you got an excuse, you do.
Mm-hmm. You do, yeah.
Then after that, we got practices, like the things you do, the habits you build. We got physiology, which is well reflected in like these exercise habits and how that changes your brain chemistry. And then I recently added the fourth pillar of people, because like you identified, there's the like having a wife that's supportive, having kids that are motivating, having friends that understand you and meet with you on the regular. These things are so integral to mental health. And I feel like our culture's at this weird situation where individuality is so prized, right? Everyone's their own personal brand, their own, they're living socially online, but a lot of the time isolated. There's a huge crisis in the dating world where a lot of people are stuck single. How do you, like a lot of people with ADHD struggle with relationships. How do you navigate relationships? How do you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I just gravitate more towards people that I jive with, I think, and if, I feel like I gravitate more towards people who think of others. And, the other thing is that I feel like I'm very open to wanting to get to know a lot of people. And those who I feel like we have a great connection, I put a lot of effort into, moving forward with that. And you're right, like having relationships around you is incredibly important. I think people with ADHD are good at building relationships, just hard at maintaining them, or hard at, constantly, or sometimes it can be hard to, maintain the relationship, I guess. And so, I don't want to generalize people with ADHD, but a lot of times, you're more lively. And, I could look back at the relationships I've had in high school, and, some of them are, they were lively for a while, but, I might have been too overbearing, or I might be too, or I don't know. I might be too of something. And I've just tried less to maybe think of myself in any sort of situation in a relationship, and try my best to think of others, or to think of, people in a way that, what can I do for them? Because I feel like there's such a reciprocal relationship when you are like that. Yeah. And I feel like you just attract people like that, and those relationships are really great to have.
Yeah, I think that points to one of the secrets to mental health, is to like worry less about yourself and more about others.
Yeah.
It's like if you're worried about yourself, like a lot of things escalate and amplify.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So the title's The Art of ADHD. I know other people with ADHD. You're working with therapists. You got ADHD. What do you think would be, like, what is the art of ADHD? What do you think is most important for navigating life with a different kind of brain?
Yeah, You know, like the way I view ADHD now is like this amazing canvas. You know, like you have the ability to create and be so much more forethinking than maybe a lot of other people. And that is such a great thing, you know. What is it like back in the day, you know, if you were the one who's going out and exploring and hunting, likely you were ADHD. And that is such an exciting life. And it's just like fully engaging in that, wherever that is for, you know, any particular person. But also realizing like there are some weaknesses that aren't necessarily bad. And I think that's the big thing is most people say, you know, like, oh, I suck at this because I'm ADHD. Well, maybe there's just some, maybe there's some, you know, some routines, or maybe there's just some other ways that you can manage those things. Like, for example, my wife and I, we share a calendar. So whenever I put something in my calendar, it shows up in hers. Whenever she puts something in her calendar, it shows up in mine. And what I'd done is I put what's called a DAC board at my door, right where our kitchen table is. And so whatever goes in her calendar, whatever goes in my calendar shows up on like a running calendar. So I used to miss things all the time, just right over my head, where somebody's texting me, hey, are you going to meet? Are we meeting here or are we not? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm half an hour away. I don't know what to do now, you know, whereas I've just, okay, maybe that's a weakness of mine. So I mitigate that with better calendar management. You know, I know that might be a weakness of mine, so I add reminders in things that likely, if I don't add a reminder to that, then if it shows up 5 minutes before I'm supposed to do that thing, I'm probably going to miss it.
Yeah.
So I'll add a 15-minute, a 30-minute reminder in there, and it'll just pop up on my phone. You know, for when I was waking up to go on the hike, I had 3 alarms because I didn't want to miss it. You know, I knew if I turned off one of the alarms, then I likely would miss it, you know, and then I started just practicing. When the first alarm went off, I just swing my legs out of bed as fast as I can. And so I just, whatever the weaknesses I had, I really put a lot of effort into managing it as best as possible. And then just really letting go of what I feel like people think I should be. You know, if somebody thinks I should be this way, I care less now about that, you know, especially now, because I have a family, because I'm, you know, I know that I'm the one who's carving the path for, you know, my girls and even my wife. You know, I feel like there's a sense that my wife looks up to me as like, where are we going? Well, you know, what are we doing? And I've really kind of taken that responsibility on. And I'm not scared of it. Whereas before, maybe I was scared of it because my brain does this, or because I'm, you know, I think a lot. I really think a lot, you know, which caused me to not get a lot of sleep. There'd be a lot of times where I would stay up as late as I can so that I was so dead tired when I put my head down, because as soon as I put my head down, it was like a generator would just go off, and I'd just be, you know, it was like I couldn't shut it up, to the point where it sounded like I'm physically hearing things around me, you know, where I know I'm not, but it's like I'm thinking so much. And I realized also that it's probably because I'm staying up so late that I'm so like, you know, tired. Whereas if I would just slow down and like go to bed at a regular time, you know, and just kind of breathe more, you know, calm my body down instead of, you know, relying on, you know, something like YouTube to put me to sleep or something like that. Like, what if I were to do what people say to do in a book that I'm reading right now about what if I were to do that, which has helped so much, in just kind of like thinking.
Yeah, that's one of the paradoxes and challenges of the ADHD brain too, is a lot of us don't like to be told what to do. But if you choose the right sources and get told what to do, your life will dramatically improve.
Yeah. There are people who have gone before you who have figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah, that like sleep schedule thing, lifesaver, game changer.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's especially helpful when I have to be up at 5:30. My alarm goes off at 5:30 every day. So if I'm going to bed at 11 o'clock or even 12, then I know I'm going to have not a fun day tomorrow. Or maybe I know it's going to be challenging. And not that it's not going to be a fun day, but I know it's going to be challenging. So do I want multiple challenging days in a row? No, then it's a decision that maybe on that day I need to get everything I need to get done earlier so I can go to bed earlier, so that I can be better. And the thing is, I'm just in this mode now where I want to be better, and it's not even for myself anymore. It's for my wife and my kids, and just being the person who's like, I know I'm steering the ship, right? My wife and I are like in this together, but the weight of my girls watching me is just very, very heavy, and in a way that I want to be better for them. So going to bed early is part of that, you know?
So with the ADHD brain, one of the hardest parts with a lot of people I've talked to, with my own experience, is getting started, because we've covered a lot today and there's a lot we haven't covered, right? If someone's feeling stuck, like they're in that mode where maybe they've made a number of excuses and they're starting to think, okay, maybe some of those were excuses, maybe some of those weren't legit reasons not to do something. Well, even still, even if you get to that point, we got exercise, we got mindset, we got family, we got a lot of options. What advice would you give? What advice would you, excuse my tongue, what advice will you give to someone who's in that place where they recognize they've been making excuses and they want to change, but there's 100 things to change at once, and if they try to change them all, they're going to fail? Where do they start?
I would say do something that's challenging for you. Do something you know is challenging. I won't say like do this or do 75 hard, because that's a very challenging thing, but do something challenging. Like if getting up and going for a walk is not something you do every day, maybe that's your challenging thing. Tony Robbins says, self-worth or self-image is strengthened when you do hard things. Because when you do something hard, you are subconsciously telling yourself that you do hard things. And when you do that over and over, your entire perspective of you will change. So whatever it is, whatever the challenging thing is to do, for me, that was cold plunge with you in midwinter in freezing cold water, where we had to walk out, was it like 40 feet, 40, 50
Probably
feet?
Probably farther, yeah.
Until we actually were able to get down into the water. I had no shoes on. I was barefoot all the way, walking on the rocks. That was probably one of the most excruciating things I've ever done, I think. And coming out of that, I was like, I just did that. And I couldn't believe, like, I just did that, and I remember walking out, and I don't know minus what it was, but I was like, my body was just like heating up, because I've been so, I feel like I was maybe in shock, but it was like this moment of, oh my gosh, I just did that, and it was like, it sparked this thing in me where I was like, I can do hard things. You know, like what's next? What's the next hard thing I can do? And then creating some sort of consistency around doing something challenging. So maybe that is one day a week where you go for a walk, or one day a week where you go for a hike. Maybe there's a mountain or something near somebody's place where they're like, I've been wanting to do that forever. Then go do it tomorrow, today. You know, it's like, that is the thing that I think is the catalyst for most people, is when they just make a decision to do something challenging. And then if you want to create lasting change, then do something challenging consistently. You know, whether that's one day a week, 2 days a week, or something, but creating a schedule or something around doing something challenging. I don't want to say do this and then you'll get this, but it's the challenging, whatever that is to you. It's the challenge that you go through will only tell you how much you are actually able to do. I think that's the best thing that somebody has said to me, is that, you know, going through hard things creates and shapes you. And I just, over this last 75 days or the last 80 days, that has been everything that have been doing, has been just doing something challenging. The result of that is, like, there's so many great serendipities about me doing 75 hard. For example, one of the workouts that I found, or one of the things I found on YouTube was they have princess workouts.
Yeah.
And so my girls want to do princess workouts. And so there'd been a couple times with my oldest, who's 5, I would do a princess workout with him, or with her. And so it'd be like jumping up, grabbing the diamond, and then squatting down, grabbing the diamond. So every time she jumped up and grabbed the diamond, I'd do like 5 jumping jacks. And then, you know, every time she squatted down to get the thing, I would do like 2 or 3 squats. And so while she was jumping up and jumping down to grab diamonds, I was like jumping jacks and squats and lunges and stuff like that for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And now today, she wakes up in the morning, she goes, Mom, Dad, can I do my workout?
Yeah.
You know, and what I'm trying to do is, I mean, a big reason why I wanted to do 75 hard is because I want to be able to create a normalcy around health and fitness, because I know that when you feel good, you feel really good. You know, when you're in this mode where you're moving, your body is moving, you don't hurt as much. And if I can create normalcy around that in their young age, and as they grow older and older and older, it's just normal for them to, you know, maybe wake up in the morning, go for a run, come back and, you know, make their eggs and, you know, toast for breakfast or something, or, you know, instead of, you know, giving them sugar for breakfast or, you know, stuff like that. You know, just not that I'm against it, like, you know, but what I'm trying to do is just create better habits from the ground up in their perspective. And I feel like 75 hard was this like catalyst for me to be able to create those habits in my girls. And I remember somebody coming over one time, and my oldest says, my dad hikes every day. And I was like, I do. I do that. You know, it was this kind of eye-opening moment for me, like, wow, you are recognizing that, like you're seeing that. And that just fueled me to want to do harder things more often. So I feel like if there's somebody who's kind of like, oh, I used to be this, or I used to be that, or I used to do this, or I want to do that. I want to do that one day. I want to do this, or, you know, I have 4 books sitting on my dresser that I've been staring at and I bought, and I had this idea that I would read them and I would be smarter. Read 10 pages. Yeah. Maybe that's the challenging thing you do today. But to do something challenging, I think, is the catalyst for anything. Yeah. And so do something challenging and then create a routine about doing something challenging consistently.
That's beautiful. Jesse, I'm so grateful to call you a friend. This has been a lovely conversation. Thanks so much. Where can people follow you online or anything?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram. I have an Instagram, JDEILDALE. Or if you're a therapist who's watching this, I build SEO optimized websites for therapists. So my company is Thriving Mind Marketing. So www.thrivingmindmarketing.com and yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for meeting Jesse.
Yeah, no
Hope you
problem.
have a great day.
Thanks for having me.